What's going on, guys? I'm Pete, and welcome to Retro Game Attic. As you may know, I dabble in a little bit of retro gaming. Crazy, I know. I've slowed my roll a bit recently, but I do like to pick up games from time to time, so I figured I'd make a video outlining some of my recent pickups. And here they are in no particular order. First up is Super Mario RPG for the Switch. It's a new release, so of course it's going to be perfect. I do have the original SNES version, but I never actually finished it. It's not because I didn't enjoy it, quite the opposite. I actually had a ton of fun with it, but I guess it just fell to the back of the queue as newer games were released, and I just never got around to it. So far, I've only had 2 play sessions with the Switch version, but I was very impressed that they kept the almost cozy feel of the original, while making it feel still fresh enough to be released in the modern era. It looks great too. This game is totally in my wheelhouse. I'm stoked to have picked this one up, and I'm looking forward to finally finishing the game. Next up is a Wii U Pro controller and a complete-in-box copy of Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge for the Wii U. I snagged these as a package deal off of Facebook Marketplace for $25, and both are in excellent condition. I already had a black and a white Wii U Pro controller, but I think I'm going to keep picking these up when I see them for a decent price in the wild. As I said in my last video, they're really great controllers in my opinion, and I think they're going to be slowly creeping up in value as more people discover them. As for Ninja Gaiden 3, I'm going to hold on to it as well. I've had a Wii U since launch and accumulated a good number of games, mostly first-party Nintendo titles, so this will be a good one to round out the collection. I remember Ninja Gaiden 3 garnering pretty good reviews around its release. I've only played the first 3 on the NES, so I'm excited to get into this one in the future. Now all I need to do is dust off my Wii U. Here we have Zero Divide for the PlayStation 1. I snagged this off of my local Craigslist for $10. As you can see, this is an early PS1 release with the long box, which I always prefer the look of over the later jewel cases. I just think it looks a lot cooler and feels much more special than something that resembles a simple CD. The long box and disc aren't in the greatest condition though, but they appear to be mostly intact. I never heard of the game before, but the cover art is awesome with those cheesy, low texture polygons. It looks hilarious now, but that was mind-blowing in 1995. I didn't get a Sega Saturn until late 1996, so I was still entrenched in the 16-bit era when this one was released. But now I have a growing affinity for these early 32-bit games. There's just something so appealing about the advanced for the time, but now dated look of these. Definitely excited to try this one out. I have low expectations for Zero Divide, but who knows, maybe it'll be a good time. Here's another PS1 pickup. Ape Escape, another local Facebook Marketplace purchase. This seller agreed to $15 for the complete-in-box black box version, which I considered a solid deal. I've sort of already played this one before since I have Ape Escape on the loose for the PSP, which is essentially a remake of this game. About 5 minutes before I was scheduled to roll up to the dude's house, he messaged me saying that the Ape Escape disc was missing and in its place was a copy of Spyro the Dragon. I was so close to his house at this point, I still came by and he gave me the Ape Escape case and Spyro disc for $5, so I was pretty happy with that. I have Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, but never played the original, so even though the deal didn't go as planned, it still kind of worked out, so I consider that a win. Next up is a Super Game Boy 2 accessory that is complete in box. This one is an eBay purchase and was a little under $54 imported from Japan. The box, instructions, and the accessory itself are in very good condition. I've always admired the Super Game Boy 2 since it runs at the exact same clock speed as the original Game Boy, with the original Super Game Boy running slightly faster. For a normal person, this means absolutely nothing, and you'll probably not notice the difference, but I'm kind of a purist and always wanted one of these, and I'm happy I finally pulled the trigger. Plus, you can't deny how cool this thing looks in a North American SNES. You have to mod your SNES to accommodate these Japanese cartridges, but it takes all of 5 minutes, and it's well worth the effort in my opinion. Moving along, we have a non-working original PlayStation console bundle. I got this bundle from a local Craigslist seller for $20. The outer shell of this broken console looks to be in great condition. This is the older audiophile console with the composite outputs on the back. Later revisions of the PS1 removed these outputs, I guess as a cost-saving measure. I had one of these audiophile consoles when I was younger, but mine has become discolored and crusty looking throughout the years. When I was growing up, my dad converted our backyard shed into a clubhouse with working electricity. This is where my original PS1 resided from around 2001 up until we moved in about 2007. I definitely forgot about it since I had a a PS2 at that point, and by the time I recovered the PS1 from the clubhouse, it came out looking brown rather than gray from baking in the sun through the window for those few years. I tried to bleach the console's shell many years later, and it looked worse in my opinion. So I swapped the upper shell of the broken donor PS1 that I just bought with the shell of my childhood PS1 to freshen it up, and I think now it looks great. Next in line, we have Mercenary Force for the Game Boy. I copped this for $13 shipped off eBay. I was looking up unknown Nintendo published titles and found out that this one was actually published by Nintendo in Europe, so of course I wanted to pick it up and try it out. The cartridge is in excellent condition with little to no wear on the front label. I messed around with it for about an hour and actually loved it. It's a charming little shooter set in feudal Japan, where you take control of 4 mercenaries of your choice to progress through each level with the boss at the end of each level. I'm glad I found out about this one, and it's a perfect game to play on my new Super Game Boy too. Next up is a purchase that I actually kind of regret, the Analog Pocket. These things were notoriously difficult to get at one point, and Analog roped me in on one of their last release rounds with this Indigo model. It looks super cool, and I didn't notice too much of a color difference versus the original Nintendo Indigo color. The console itself is pretty pricey, $288 shipped, and I have to say I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be. It's an amazing piece of tech that brings the Game Boy line of games into the modern age, but I just don't use it as much as I thought I would. I prefer my GBA SP101 model to this. Maybe I'll mess around with it more in the future, but for now it's kind of a shelf piece. And the icing on the Analog cake is that I also bought the Analog Pocket Game Gear adapter for another $54 shipped. I was pretty excited to have this one since I have about 40 Game Gear games that I haven't played in years because all of my Game Gears need to be recapped. I felt that this purchase was justified since Analog already roped me in with the Pocket. The first adapter I ordered didn't work out of the box, but after a little back and forth with their support team, they sent me out a replacement. The replacement adapter works well, and it was pretty cool to play some of these games that I haven't touched since I was a kid. It was kind of mind-blowing to play Game Gear Shinobi again. I don't think I've played that game since I was in like 6th grade. I still don't think the Analog Pocket setup was worth it, but the silver lining is that I can finally have a way to play Game Gear games without having to recap my original Game Gear or send it out to someone. Last up, we have a lot of various DS games and one Wii game disc. I got all of these off of Facebook Marketplace for $32. Very specific number, I know, but I think it was worth it. I already have Super Mario 64 DS, New Super Mario Bros., and Super Mario Galaxy 2. The only game I'm going to hold on to here is Donkey Kong Jungle Climber. I had the first game in the series, DK King of Swing, for the GBA, and really liked that one. I never picked up the sequel, and really haven't thought about it since it came out, but it's cool to finally have it, and I'm excited to play it. As for the rest of the games here, I'll most likely just clean them up and sell them, or just keep them for eventual trades or whatnot. And that's it for my recent pickups. I hope you all enjoyed checking them out with me. I haven't done a pickups video before, so if you did enjoy this and want to see me do more ones like it, please let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you all. Thank you all so much for checking out Retro Game Attic. I seriously appreciate you all. Have an awesome day, and I will see you on the next one.